believe that nothing happens by accident, right? I've been a small business owner since I was 16 years old, right? You heard my name is Charles Moon. I'm from right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up in a small town called East Point. Any locals? Yeah, I knew there was a couple of locals in here. Right. So the whole idea here is that I realized at a very young age that if I understood how money moved, it would allow me to move some money around, right? And so what I did was I spent a lot of time working on myself before I started working on my craft, right? I started spending a lot of time working on myself before I started working on my craft. How many people have faced the same decision, right? Everybody has. So when you thought about your business, you were thinking about, well, first of all, how do I work on myself? Right? How do I work on myself? How do I prepare myself to be the best version of myself? Right? And so then you made a decision that you were going to step into the small business world. And so what we are happy about today is that we get to share information. You don't have to learn from your own mistakes. You can learn from somebody else's. Is that right? Absolutely it is. So we want to give you guys an opportunity to do that. But I'm not going to do it by myself. So I'm going to let this young lady that is on the stage, my partner in purpose, introduce herself and tell you a little bit about what she does.
Yeah, so I am Lisa Ellis, and I am a small business advisor lead. So basically, I lead a virtual small business team that supports you every single day as small business owners serving in our community. We partner you with them to give you advice, expertise, and really deliver efficiency and growth within your business. How many of you want to grow and make more revenue? How many of you want positive cash flow? Right? How many of you want more liquidity? Right? Well, you're going to hear more about that today. And so how about we get started?
Sounds like a plan to me. So everybody here has access to a living, breathing document. I call it a roadmap, an opportunity for you to go back because you're going to hear something today. You're not going to remember everything. I'll be a fool if I told you that you're going to remember everything that we say today. But there are going to be bits and pieces that you're going to remember. And guess what? We're going to send you out of here with a roadmap about how to find them after you forget them. Right? We're going to get you a way so that way you have an opportunity to go back and reference the things that you're thinking about. And we're also going to provide you with some resources so you have an opportunity to connect. So up on the screen, for those people who want to be digitally inclined, right? You got a QR code. That is your what? Workbook. It goes with you. So that way you have an opportunity to always go back and see the things that triggered those emotions that you feel right now. Okay? So we already heard from our wonderful Yolande Matthews, our executive leader. And, Yolande always shows up in purpose. And so what we always try to do is make sure that people understand that we're not just here showing up in purple, right? We have some core values. And one of the reasons why I do what I do for the company that I do it for is because their values align with who I am. Remember, I told you I was working harder on myself. Right? So when we think about our core values, you talk about being trustworthy. And trustworthy means that I can stand on business. It means that I can actually do what I'm going to say I'm going to do. And that is a very powerful thing in business. Am I right or am I right? So the other thing is that we care. We show up and care about small businesses because you're not just the backbone of America. You guys are the heartbeat of America. We understand that. And so when we talk about being able to care for our businesses, we show up as one team. How many people saw more than one person in purple today? Right? We always show up together. And so even though you might think that I'm only one person, we represent all 31,000 employees that Truist has to offer you. Right? We also talk about being able to share in your success because when you win, we win. Right? And I know you guys are saying, well, guess what? I don't even have an account with Truist. That's perfectly fine. Guess what? Here's the reality. If we teach you how to be a stronger small business, guess what? You now become part of their tax base. Maybe you build a home. Maybe you help a community get better. And guess what? Last time I checked, that means that what? We're all winning together, right? So important. And then the very last thing, and this is the rock that I built my house on, you guys, it is happiness. It is very hard to get me off of that because positive energy can change lives.
That's right.
So we always want to make sure that people not just identify with the purple. We're not just here for the raws. We've got the core values, those things that people care about and that you should care about in your business. Does that make sense? So I tell people all the time, this is the best picture I've ever taken in my life. Right? I'm going to, 20 years from now when I run for office, I'm going to use that same picture, right? And I laugh and joke about it. I lost a little weight since then. Most of it was beard. But the reality is that I always put this picture in every single presentation because it reminds me that, guess what? Regardless of how established you are, you always have what? Room for change, right? And sometimes we talk to business owners and business owners get started in business. I just got started. But guess what? There's a lot of business owners who trip into year 3, right? You started a business, sos.ga.gov. You got your EIN number. You went to the bank, you got your bank account started up, and all of a sudden now that business goes dormant. You haven't done anything with it. The wheels are turning in the back of your head, right? You're thinking, what do I do? What's my next step? How do I move? But we want every small business to what? Get good at business, but we want them to be able to what? Scale fast. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to talk a little bit about why businesses need funds. We're going to talk about where to find that funding. I think I got a place where you can get that funding from, right? We're going to talk about how to select the right type of financing, because all financing is not the same for every business.
That's right.
Right? We're also going to talk about what lenders look for. How many people want to know what lenders look for when they're looking at your application? I think that's some very powerful information. So we're going to try to put you ahead of that information, okay? And then how to create a borrower's profile. That is so very important. This is about vision, right? And they say people perish for lack of vision. It says, write it down and make it. Absolutely. So we want you guys to know what a borrowing profile can do in terms of taking your business to the next level. And then we're going to finish up and talk about some next steps. What do you do after the financing is there, right? Now you got the money in your account. Now you got that extra liquidity, and we want to make sure you know what to do with it. Is that fair? Everybody's ready to jump into it? All right, so let's talk about it. So why do businesses need funding? Well, first of all, you may want to grow. Growing's not a bad idea in business, is it? Absolutely. You may want to launch a new location or maybe a new product. That is so important that you have what? Growth or access, so that way you have the ability to grow. We talk about increasing productivity, right? Service demands. I venture to say your lawn guy is not as busy now as he was in April. Am I right or am I right? The reality is that your lawn guy is now trying to figure out, how do I pay these people that are on my payroll? They have to understand that I have to move with the ebbs and flows of the season. And so I may have increased production, increased services during the spring, but if I don't understand that the winter is coming, I'm dead in the water.
Right.
Y'all follow me? The other thing we talk about is talking about boosting profits, right? Maybe you have a great idea. Maybe you're trying to find a way to scale fast. You want to be able to upgrade a solution or shift your sales from a brick and mortar maybe to a digital space, because that's where the world is happening at right now, right? I just showed you a QR code. You got a roadmap about how you get business funding, right? Information moves differently, so we want to make sure that you have the ability to do that and shift in your business. And then we also talk about managing cash. Managing cash is a very good reason why people want to borrow. Believe it or not, if I got more money, right, it's very hard to manage money that you don't have. So our goal is to try to figure out, how do we get more of that money in the cycle? And that means you might be consolidating some debt. That might mean that you're building more inventory. How many people you think in the sales business had to build inventory before January? Right? They were thinking, what does this mean for me, right? Changes in economy means, changes in government means, what does this mean for my what? Sales cycle. This is so very important. You've got to know how to manage and consolidate that debt, and you want to make sure you have the ability to build from that. So I know a lot of times when we talk about that, some people start thinking about, what should I do? Do I have an opportunity to grow my business sales? Does borrowing serve that need? Well, guess what? We got a checklist for you. I know you guys are saying this dude's about to move on from this slide. Guess what? It's in your workbook. We want you to be able to do it. You see the other questions up there. You're thinking about, do I need to increase my productivity? Or is there another need? Perhaps I want to what? Partner up with somebody in my business, right? Because if you want to go far, you go what? With others. You want to go fast, go by yourself. So, where do we find the funding, right? Well, first of all, you got to think about your cash reserves. Cash reserves are so important to your lending profile.
Liquidity.
Cash reserves make the difference between what? An approved or not right now, right? You want the ability to make sure that you have cash reserves on hand. The reality is that we tell consumers that they need about how much in savings? 4 to 6 months. So why shouldn't your business have 4 to 6 months of operating expenses on cash reserve? Personal principle applies to your business. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Equity investment by owners. That means that now all of a sudden I've got what? I've got quick access to funds because I have people that are willing to pour into the business. Equity investment from external sources. Now all of a sudden I'm looking for what? Those partnerships, those opportunities for me to take my vertical industry and say, how do I what? Go horizontal, get more people involved in what I'm doing. And sometimes it means that you've got to borrow, right? Borrowing is not a bad thing. I always say it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Think about what having a line of credit would have done for people during the pandemic.
Right.
right? Think about how many businesses we lost during that cycle because they did not have what? Access to capital. They had to wait for the PPP process to get stood up. And a lot of those businesses, unfortunately, ended up closing their doors. So again, better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Mm-hmm. So cash flow versus equity versus borrowing, right? These are just questions to make you start thinking, right? This is a question, and guess what? I see some people feverishly writing. Where's it at? Okay, I knew somebody understood that. There we go. It's in the workbook, right? So the reason why you want to get involved in this is because this is your opportunity to what? Work harder on yourself, right? This gives you an opportunity to be able to cast your vision. This gives you an opportunity to figure out where the gaps exist. And most of the time, most business owners, and me included, get wrapped up in the day-to-day, right? We do a lot of worrying about getting to the next, what? Sundown, right? I just got to get through the day because I got so much on my plate. The reality is that we don't take the time, take a step back, take a breath, and think about where we're going. Mm-hmm. Then the road starts to straighten out. And that's really what we want to do in our businesses. So when we talk about trying to select the right type of funding, it makes a difference where you start, right? So I will tell you this, Truist is one of the only places that I know of that you could start your business last week, come in and start talking about business credit. We don't need you to be in business for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, none of that stuff. We want to make sure we're having that conversation because the reality is we want every small business to become what? Big business. So here's the reality. If we are there with you at the beginning, you're less likely to do what? We are partners. We're in this together, right? We believe in putting a client in the center of the room and building around that because we don't know what you need, and odds are you probably don't know what you need yet. So we've got to have consultative conversations to try to figure out how we get you there. And that's so very important. So when we think about our some of the options we have, we talk about the small business credit card. The gateway, right? Gives you an opportunity to start exploring how do I start building business credit. And that is great for your day-to-day purchases, right? That's your in-the-moment purchases. That is when you're out to dinner. That is out when you got to do some short-term, not something that you want to hold long-term, right? So you can use a business credit card for that. And then, of course, we have business loans. So whether you want to buy equipment or you need to buy, I don't know, something that is tangible, right? Perhaps a business loan might be the right fit. And then, of course, we do offer lines of credit, right? Again, a line of credit allows you to do what? Use it, pay it down, use it, pay it down. And guess what? That revolving line stays there, available for you to what? Grow and scale. Now, I got a couple of business bankers in the room. Am I right? Okay, as long as I'm right. Keep me honest now. All right. Other ways, you also have business leases. You have things like construction loans. If you're trying to build something from the ground up, right? You're looking at a slab, but you're seeing what? A restaurant. We want to help you get there, so we do offer construction loans. We partner with the SBA as a preferred lender, right? We want to be part of that, and we're going to try to figure out how do we tell you yes. And if it isn't right, we're going to tell you what? Not right now. So when we think about the ways that we fund, and I think I might need a drink of water or something, but I get excited about this stuff, right? You see it's in me. I'm going to pass this over to my partner in purpose and take a second to breathe. Miss Ellis, would you please take us through this slide?
Absolutely.
Tell us about where we can find some funding sources.
So outside of traditional banking, we all recognize that every business is at a different stage, right? Whether it's early, whether it's mature, whether, hey, maybe I'm thinking about my transition phase, right? Whether I'm growing. And so these are just some of other resources, things like online lenders, peer-to-peer, crowdfunding, CDFI, also known as Community Development Financial Institution, equity investors, and family and friends. Who here has ever tried to use family and friends?
No.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper into that. So family and friends, so you're thinking early. I see some smiles out here because it's real. How many of us have tried it? It created that tension. It's easy, right? But as a business owner, if I'm getting started, then I have to have something, and I need to rely on sometimes others. We have equity investors. This is where you're going to give up some of your ownership, some of your equity to get access to working capital. How many have watched Shark Tank? I'm going to give you $200,000, but you got to give me 15%, Drew. I want it. And then you have your CDFI. That is really community-based. And I want you to think about the underserved communities or businesses that are in communities that we can serve because you're the heartbeat, as we heard from my partner in purpose, right? Or maybe businesses that are at startup or can't get traditional funding. So those things are very, very important as you think about other resources that we have all at different points of our business have to utilize. Now, it's not everything, and I know I have a partner in purpose that is going to talk about something that's upcoming before we dig a little deeper into some more other sources.
So we also think about online lenders, right? Places that you have an opportunity to go online, tell them what it is that you need to borrow money for, and then at that point you have the ability to get quick funding. Are these things bad? The collective answer is no, right? But the whole idea is that you need to know who it is that you're doing business with, right? Make sure that you do your homework. And I don't want to caution anybody and say that anything is wrong. We don't speak wrong about any financial institution, right? Fintech or otherwise. But the reality is that you want to make sure you know who it is that you're doing business with because they typically have higher rates, right? If you take the time to sit down and have a consultative conversation across the table with someone, they are going to be completely different than that algorithm that makes a decision about how much money you get. You get what I'm saying? So even though I know my partner in purpose is going to go through the 5 C's, I'm going to give y'all one more C. And if you don't remember anything else, remember this. That's connections.
That's right.
Connections make a difference, right? So many people skip over that as part of the C's. If you don't know where to go and you don't know who to talk to, the other C's become what? Less valuable. And so we want to make sure that you guys have the connection to do that. We talk about peer-to-peer lending sites, crowdfunding, right? Those are great opportunities to be able to do that. I don't spend a whole lot of time on those two, mainly because they typically have very nuanced processes. Know that they are available for small businesses, right? You can just get started. You can been in business for a while, and crowdfunding may be a great solution for you. It takes time to get those things in place, which means that you should be what? Casting your vision a little bit further out about how you can utilize those things in your business. That makes all the difference in the world. And so what Lisa's going to take you through here is what lenders look for when it comes to the 5 C's. Yeah. So that way you can get more yeses, right? I think everybody here wants more yeses.
How many of you want more yeses? How many want the approved,
yeah,
right?
Right.
You want that approval? Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity today where 100% of the room will have an approval today when I walk through process, right? I can't guarantee it, but we'll see. So I like to call these the 5 C's of credit, right? And so I'm going to adjust my glasses. I'm going to take you back a little bit because we're going to look at it from the lens of a lender, okay? And so the lens of a lender is very important. And what I want to highlight is no one of these work individually. They work in conjunction with each other. And so if I'm a business owner, and I was a very young widow, and I will tell you, my late husband was a manufacturing engineer. And so if somebody had taught him the 5 C's of credit, when he first got started, it would have been amazing when he was trying to access working capital as he tried to expand. And he had timing gaps. So I'm going to start with credit history. I'm going to call this your character. This is your character, very important. The things that you have done in the past and how you are currently paying are so crucial. But I also want to highlight something I see every day. I told you I lead a virtual team of advisors. So I look at credit all the time, and I'm looking at deals all the time. On your credit history, the way you pay your vendors, and if you're slow pay, that can show on your credit report and cause a good deal to go sideways and answer more questions and requirements. So your credit history and your character is important to understand what you're doing. Your capacity. This is your cash flow. I asked you earlier, how many of you want positive cash flow at the end of the year, right? You want it to grow. What you have to understand is we all understand there's a cost of running your business, right? There's always a cost of running your business. But if you are looking to gather and have your cash flow work to your favor, you can't write off as a small business owner 100% of everything. Because now it's going to hurt you. And so your capacity, your cash flow, and your ability to repay is absolutely important. When we come to capital, I like to call this your cushion, right? This is your cushion. This is your liquidity, your equity. right? This is absolutely important also. This is your what if, right? If I can't pay it, it's my backup plan, right? You have two backup plans. One, liquidity is absolutely, but I want you to think about it as a guarantor. How many of you have applied for a loan and they talked about personal guarantees? Your personal liquidity and your business liquidity also comes in to your capital when you're looking at business lending based on your size and the segment that you fit. Conditions. This is the what if, right? This is can you withstand a downturn? Understanding your industry trends, understanding what's happening within the market. How many of you remember COVID, right? And so understanding that. But I also want to talk about something that's very important when you're thinking about conditions. The purpose of your loan must match the financing need. If I see a lot of small business owners that will come and say, I need a line of credit, I need access to working capital, but they're buying equipment. If it's going to be part of your permanent core, your permanent business, we shouldn't be using a short-term vessel, right? And when you're thinking about your credit history, I want you to think about your character. If you're constantly maxed out on revolving credit, it could hinder your ability to meet the needs. So no one of these are individually important. They work in conjunction. And then you have collateral. This is the big backup plan. What are you going to secure the loan with? Absolutely important. When I think about each one of these things, and I think about the 5 C's of credit, I think about looking at it from the lens of a lender. And if you're my advisors, I would tell you the lens of an underwriter. Because when you're looking at the 5 C's of credit, it's going to tell us your character. It's going to tell you how you currently pay and have paid in the past, historical data. Your capacity, your cash flow. If I'm showing negative year end, what is the likelihood I'm going to be able to give you something? Because if I have to be able to add that payment in. And so it's very important as you think about these that you really harness in on understanding the 5 C's of credit. The 5 C's of credit are a very important piece when you're thinking about all of the things and how do you prepare for future lending. So we have heard about the types of financing. We have heard about other resources and the way you can access working capital. We have also now talked about the 5 C's of credit. But then we move into the process. So we first have to identify a need. We have to say, I need access, I need a loan, I need a line, right? Then we move into application. And in the application phase, based on the size of your business and the segmentation of where you're doing it, I will share with you, you're going to take application and you're going to require financials. Things like 2-year business returns, 2 years personal. If you have inventory, we may want to see your AR aging report. And if you're in manufacturing, how much raw materials in process, right? Finished goods, income statements, balance sheets, based on that segmentation. Those are all things that you can be prepared for to understand when you're looking to access working capital. Then we move all of that stuff, beautiful stuff, to underwriting. And so now we're looking at the 5 C's of credit, we're looking at risk, we're looking at all your liquidity, we're looking at the deal and the financials, and we're going to move to a decision. It's either going to be an approve or a decline. But before I go to approval, I want to pause. How many of you have ever been declined, whether it's personal or business, in the past, right? It's okay. But it's not a permanent no, it's a no for right now. And if we understand what the decline is and the reasons behind the decline, I can partner you with an advisor. I have a whole bunch of them that will be more than happy to help you. And those advisors can walk you and guide you and walk alongside you to say, hey, this is too high. Your revolving is maxed out. You need to have a resting period. You need to pay it down. This is hindering the risk rating. Those are the things that we advise on a regular basis. But in this room, today, to move along the process, we all got 100% approval. Right? Drew's going to pull out his checkbook. He's going to write it for you. And so we all got our approval. So we move to our approval, but I want to highlight this could be preliminary. There could be other requirements within the process. So whether or not I have additional questions to be answered, whether or not I have an appraisal or a survey, right? Maybe we pulled something and there's still a lien on something and you're trying to consolidate over to another financial institution. Well, it's important, but once we get through the process, we get to your part. We get to closing. You all sign, I'm going to fund your loan, and you're all excited because we've given that working capital injection into your business. But then we get to the part the bank loves, repayment. Repayment. We don't want your building. We don't want your equipment. We don't want your liquid cash. We really just want repayment, right? That's a contract when we go to closing between us. But all of these 5 C's of credits and the things that my partner in purpose covered prior are really important as you're thinking about planning. So we move to how do I plan? We've covered a lot. And when you think about planning, I think about the borrowing profile. I like to call it my business resume, because this is one place that can create efficiency for you, consolidate all things that a financial institution may want from you in one place. I'm going to ask you to pause a moment. I'm going to ask you to pull it out. You can access it in your paper. I see people with the paper one, but you have a QR code. It's also in there if you're a digital. But I also want you to write down your questions. I want you to write your questions because you're going to have an amazing panel of experts. We talked about those other sources of funding. We have a whole panel coming up here to talk to you about it, and I can't wait. From CRE to CDFI to my boss over there, Gail Cabrera in the corner, who's the head of small business, and we have SBA. But this is very powerful and can create some efficiencies within your business when you're looking to borrow and put everything in one place. But my partner in purpose is very passionate about this profile. So I'm going to turn it over to my partner in purpose, Charles, for a moment.
So she said Charles is passionate about this part of the process. I'm passionate about everything. Everything small business I'm excited about. But the reason why I like this form is because it allows you to get your ideas out of your head and get them on paper, right? And believe it or not, everything that you have ever experienced in life existed that same exact way. Somebody thought about it first, right? They took the time to organize their thoughts and they put it down on paper. They designed the chairs that you sit in, the pen that you write with, the paper that you write on. Because God knows y'all don't want to be in here, trying to etch some notes, right? So every idea, good or bad, exists in 3 places. Your head first. You have to write it down and make it plain, and that's what the borrowing profile does for you, right? And then the last place it exists is in reality, because everybody wants the opportunity to have access to capital. That's why you're in the room.
That's right.
So what we're asking people to do is get it out of your head and get it on paper. Organize your thoughts so that way that conversation that we have across the table or online, that conversation becomes a whole lot easier because you know where you're going. Does that make sense? Yes? All right, fair enough. So when we talk about the next steps, right? We talk about building a record. So she said everybody's approved, right? You're excited, you got approved, bank's excited, you're now making your payments. We know that you're credit qualified, you're great at what you do. We want you to go out there and be the best version of yourselves. And now all of a sudden we're asking you to do what? Rinse and repeat. Pay us. Do the right things, because guess what? We want your business to be able to scale, and we assume that that's not going to be the last time that you borrow, right? Because we want your $200,000 business to turn into a $2 million business, and your $2 million business turn into a $20 million business. We want that for everybody. So here's what I will tell you: you don't got to be too bright, but it's okay to copy a copycat as long as you're copying the right cat. Does that make sense? So the whole idea here is that we're gonna summarize some points. We're gonna get you guys to the panel. You guys heard what she said, right? So we mentioned CDFI, right. We mentioned small business, we mentioned SBA, right? We talked about all those things. You guys are gonna have an opportunity to hear from those people, and I'm pretty confident because I saw a lot of people writing down questions. You guys are gonna have questions. So we didn't just bring you here for a long time. We want to bring you here for a good time, and I want you guys to get your questions answered today. So as you're thinking about those questions, these are things that help you jog your memory, right? The things that we talked about. You guys will have an opportunity to hear some very insightful things, but guess what? We're asking for your input. We want you to have the ability to do what? But I will tell you, I got one more ask. Is that okay? So we talked about a lot today. We gave you guys some takeaways. We know we're going to put you in front of the panel, get your questions answered. But here's the reality. That last C that I mentioned, connection. We would love an opportunity to connect with you, yes. Right? We would love an opportunity to find out more about your small business. And the reality is, you might not like us. Your favorite color might be red, green, orange, and blue. But the reality is that until you sit down in front of one of us, you really don't know what you don't know. And we want to be able to help you. And that's what it's all about, because guess what? We're rooted in that core value. Y'all remember that core value, the one that sits smack dab in the middle? We care. Because the reality is when you win, we win. And that's always important to us as what's the name. So we want to help you get your questions answered. I'm going to transition here to one of my partners of purpose who's going to introduce our panel for us. But first of all, can y'all give Miss Lisa a hand? She did a great job, didn't she? She did a great job. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get out of your way, and we're going to let this gentleman introduce our panel so you guys will have an opportunity to hear and ask the questions that you ask. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time, okay? And we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Can y'all give a great round of applause to Charles and Lisa? Oh, I know y'all can do a little bit better than that. Just a little bit. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you, Lisa, for that great information and education that you shared. And we're so, again, happy that you all are taking the time to join us for this small business pop-up. We're looking forward to the next section of this, which is our panel. And because we think about the information we're bringing, we don't just want to give you information. We wanted to bring the experts into the room. We wanted to bring the people that can actually answer your questions. Y'all got questions? Let me see your hand, because I saw some note takers. All right? And so they're going to come up. Here's a little bit of how this is going to go. They're going to come up on the stage. I'm going to introduce them in just a second. They're each going to go just share a brief nugget about their area of expertise and how that can help you future-proof your business for success around access to capital. Okay? After that, we're going to open up the floor to Q&A. We want to make sure we are maximizing the time today to get your questions answered, to make sure you get the information that you need to grow and scale. That sounds good? Now, I will also tell y'all this. When it's time for the Q&A portion, you're going to have to raise your hand fast. This is not the time to be shy. I like a little chaos every now and then in my life. So I got my crew of volunteers. Raise your hand, volunteers. Look around them in the room. When it's time for you to raise your hand, I want you to make direct eye contact with these people wearing purple. They are my eyes, maybe my ears, because sometimes people get a little excited and they say, I was first. And so they will help make sure we get to you. But we will be able to answer your questions today, get these answers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too as well. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask the panelists to come to the stage. We have a great group, so come on to the stage, panelists. We have Lauren Butler, Community Development Fund Relationship Manager. Can we get some rounds of applause, please? Louis Freeman, CRA Managing Director of Partnerships and Services. Gail Cabrera, Director of Small Business Direct. And then Calvin Calhoun, Director of Small Business Administration. So give a round of applause for our panelists. Panelists, thank you. And we are going to get it started. Y'all feel free to have your seat, and we'll start with you, Lauren, to get us going.
All right. Well, it's exciting to be here this afternoon and be able to see all of you. What great information we've heard so far. And one of the things I'd like to start with is I have the privilege to be able to work with the bank and focus on our impact financing initiative. What that means is that I'm able to do what Charles and team said earlier. I get to partner with people in the communities to understand the needs of the small businesses and the community. And then we also have a suite of solutions that can help. And the way I look at this is I have partners. So the partners are who I work with. So I have the ability, as we uncover the needs of the community, we can focus on small business development, affordable housing, and community revitalization. And to provide solutions, I have an equity and a debt platform. And so what I do is I'm able to work with some of these partners that you saw from the screen. So I can work with community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, and I can also work with equity funds where I can make investments. And so what I do on the debt side with CDFIs is I provide patient low-cost capital to those CDFIs so that they can then lend out based on the policies and procedures they have for underwriting and the wraparound services that they provide to be able to support small businesses as they grow. So that's one hand. And on the equity side, as we heard earlier, maybe not the Shark Tank version, but I do invest in equity funds that are able to help provide that injection of equity capital into your businesses. So happy to be able to talk about that today. I'm located here in Atlanta, Georgia. Been with the bank for 25 years, cover the entire footprint. So looking forward to any questions you all may have. I'll turn it to Lewis.
Yep, thanks, Lauren. Lewis Freeman, CRA Managing Director of Partnerships and Services in the Community Development Department at Truist. And I lead a team of community development managers. We cover about half of the bank's footprint. And we invest in and partner with nonprofit organizations across the bank's footprint that provide resources, training, education to small businesses. So that's part of what we do. And we also invest in nonprofits that invest in low and moderate income communities as well. So when Charles and Lisa talked about the CDFIs, well, we provide grants and funding to those CDFIs and support them so that they get capital to small businesses. And when we provide that investment, that support, we look at the end of the day, we look at their success rate. You know, what are the results? They have to give us an impact report that says how many small businesses have gotten loans, how many small businesses have created jobs, how many jobs have been created. So we're looking at the track record of the results of our investment in those SBDCs and CDFIs as well. I've been with the bank for 13 years and I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And I'm Calvin Calhoun, Director of SBA. The SBA was created back in the 60s. So if you think about the different organizations that were created back in the 60s, so the Civil Rights Act, you think about HUD, a lot of different organizations were created. Well, the SBA was created to help maintain as well as grow jobs. Hard stop. So when you think about how do you leverage SBA funding, from a bank perspective, the SBA helps to guarantee the loans that we make, helps minimize our downside risk. That empowers us to take on more risk and ultimately accelerate your growth the best that we can. So when we think about SBA funding, you can utilize it to buy fixed assets. You can utilize it for permanent working capital. You can utilize it for operating working capital in a revolving manner as well. You can also leverage SBA funding for transitions. It's very good for change of ownership. So whether you want to buy a business, whether you want to bring in a partner, have them buy in, help you take some money off the table, some equity off the table that you've already invested over the years, that's an option. If you have a partner or multiple partners, and we see this all the time, there's somebody who runs the business, there's a financial partner who's over here to the side, doesn't really do anything, but they collect a check every year.
Well, you got to go this side.
And sometimes they want to, and sometimes they want to, tell you how to run the business from afar. We can help you buy them out. So again, this is your thing, and you can continue to drive the business forward the way you want to drive it forward. So that's how we leverage SBA lending. Now I have a team that's spread out across our footprint. I've been with the bank myself for 23 years, based here in Atlanta. We partner with our bankers out in the footprint, but we also partner with you directly. So when you think about SBA, I hear it all the time. It's a daunting task. It's extremely scary. There's so much paperwork. Well, my team, this is all they do every day. They know how to talk through it. They know how to demystify things for you and walk you through it as well. And we look forward to partnering.
All right, hello y'all. My name is Gail Cabrera and I lead a set of our virtual bankers here at Truist that really help with small businesses. So I know we're here to talk about access to capital, but I really want you to think about your banker as so much more than that. Because when you come to your bank, that journey for capital actually starts way before the need for capital arises. And so we have a set of about 100 virtual bankers that can do everything on the phone. We know small business owners are busy and don't always have time to go into the branch or do things online late at night at 10 p.m. through digital platforms. But we also work with our branches hand in hand when those small business clients come in. We're here to be your advisor. Again, access to capital is important, but when you really think about it, it really starts with that deposit relationship, which is really just the cash flow of your business. How does money come in? How does money go out? And at the end of the day, that's really how you get access to capital.
All right, thank you, panelists. And so at this point in time, we are going to begin with Q&A. What I will say is raise your hand when I say go, not right now. Some like to get a head start. I saw somebody's elbow going up. But raise your hand in just a moment. I also have the wonderful Christine Vargas over there who's also on that side with a mic, so don't think you are forgotten. And we're going to get right to it so the experts can answer your questions. See, you're already trying. I saw you right here. And so on the count of 3, begin to raise your hand. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, I saw you, wonderful lady over here with the red stripes. I'm coming over to you.
Hello, my name is Joy. With helping people with their small businesses, all of our ideas are very important to us. Do you help with as far as just the patent for things that you want to protect from other businesses taking on from your business? Is that part of the process?
For clarity purposes, you're asking about protecting and possibly getting some capital from a patent perspective and financing for that piece too as well. Okay. Anybody would like to take this on the panel?
I'll take it.
Lewis, yes, sir.
Yeah, no, great question. So a part of that partnership that I talked about with the nonprofit organizations, CDFIs, SBDCs, they provide that expertise, that legal expertise. They have folks, that they can contact, or either in-house. They have, executives on loan, lawyers on speed dial, who can walk you through that process and hold your hand through that, because it's very complicated how that works and the results of that. So we can link you with those folks, those nonprofit organizations that can provide you that expertise and training at little or no cost to you.
Thank you, Lewis. All right, I see a hand right over here.
Hi, my name is Isabel McDonald, and I am a business owner. I also have some properties that I would love to develop, and I heard you say that there's money available to assist with those type projects, but how extensive can those benefits reach? I want to kind of like build a little small city, and I need some money.
All right, that sounds like that might be, you know what, that could be open to Calvin, to Lauren, or Gail.
Let Lauren take a second.
Yeah, I can jump in on this one. So, anytime you're looking at developing an area, whether it's you yourself as the developer or working with others, so one thing that our initiative doesn't do is we don't do project-based financing, but what I do have is that ability to connect with organizations or groups that do. And so I have connections with groups that literally, whether it's from a debt side to be able to provide lending, or from an equity side to provide equity into a development, where nationwide or local here in Atlanta or any other city that we can connect you up with to be able to get not only information, but access to the capital, as well as access to capacity building. Because I think if you're looking to build a small city, having that access to being able to grow your capacity as well and to grow your team would be important.
Thank you.
Excellent. We have our next question over here. Your names?
My name is Shelton, and I'm sure nobody in this room has faced this problem before, but you started a business before you really knew anything about how businesses work, or that, capital exists. So you overextend yourself personally and dig yourself into a hole. You have a good business idea, and just like a lot of great ideas come from very challenged positions, you've worked yourself into a challenging position. How do you recover from that so that you can gain access to capital?
Great question. Go ahead, Gail.
So I think it depends on which way did you overextend yourself. Number one, did you over leverage yourself, meaning you took on too much debt? And if it's one thing y'all leave knowing, because I say this every time I speak, let me just say this because I'm a person before I am a banker. While you want to bet on yourself, you don't want to bet on yourself to the detriment of yourself. Okay? And so a lot of small business owners, when you invest in yourself, you'll dig into your savings account and you'll also dig into your 401k. My biggest advice to you is to never touch the 401k if you can help it, because that is one asset that is actually protected. And so if things go awry, that is an asset that banks cannot go after. It cannot be included in your bankruptcies. And so at the end of the day, I believe everyone wants to be able to retire and live a good life. So that is the one thing I do want you to remember when you leave there. But at this point, you've already over-leveraged yourself, you're in things. What I would say is there's a few things to think about. Is debt consolidation something that you should do to make sure you're paying down the debt? Because the only way out of it is really just to pay it back, okay? If you do bankruptcy, it's going to be a while before anyone else gives you money to work yourself out of that. So you can do that, but you just need to understand what those decisions mean from a consequence standpoint from a financial institution. If someone does give you money, you need to be prepared that they're probably robbing you and charging you like 30% interest. There's someone always out there that's going to give you something, but they're going to take every penny you can take. You will see a lot of this in a lot of the fintech companies where they have small business loans that help you with your cash flow, but they're going to take that payment every single day.
First.
As soon as that money hits, they're going to take a large chunk of it. So you're going to see your financials, and you're going to see you should be making a lot of money, but to dig your way out of that, so what I will tell you is it's going to hurt a little while, but you're going to have to pay that back, and you're going to have to come up with a plan. Some of that is not always with debt consolidation. Sometimes it's just talking to your banker. I'll give you an example. This morning I was on the phone with a client, has been in business for 3 years with a lawn care company. He used his home equity line and borrowed about $120,000 in debt. He's like, I would really like to do some debt consolidation. At the end of the day, when we looked at it though, based on where rates are today, he would actually end up paying 2% more a month in interest because when he got the loan, he was locked in at 5.66%. I don't know about y'all, but I ain't seen 5.66 on real estate in a while, okay? He's also at interest only. As the banker, ooh, that was loud, I'm sorry. As the banker, I don't have to put you in a loan to help set you up with a plan to say if you pay X amount a month, this will be paid off in 5 years. You can come up with those plans with your advisor to help get you where you need to go without locking you down. And then say, if rates do drop, then let's consolidate that loan. What I will tell you also is, I'm just going to digress, I'm so sorry guys, is when you think about your partners, everyone should have bail. Everybody know what bail is? You know what your bail is? My team has heard this forever and ever. It is your banker. Mm-hmm. It is your accountant. Mm-hmm. It is your insurance agent, and it is your lawyer. It is your attorney. All four of us are very vital to the success of your business, but all four of us have very different views of what does success mean for you as the company. As a banker, you heard Lisa say, I just want to get paid back. Do you have the money to pay me back, right? As an accountant, you're going to love your accountant when you don't pay Uncle Sam. But if you don't pay Uncle Sam, guess what you're basically saying? You ain't make any money. If you ain't make any money, you can't pay me back, okay? Your attorney is gonna help you structure, how do you wanna set up your business? Are you an S Corp? Are you an LLC? Then what does that look like from a tax perspective with your accountant of what they can write off and what they cannot write off? And then the last one is also your insurance agent. And when we think about risk management, this is the one that I think most people forget. If I decide to do an LLC with Calvin, and me and Calvin are going to go into business, what are we going to do, Calvin? What's our business?
We're going to do, let's stick with what you said, lawn care.
Okay, we're going to do lawn care. Y'all do not want me doing your lawn, but we're going to do some lawn care. And tomorrow, I get hit by a bus. Because we own that business 50-50 in that LLC, the question becomes, how does that business survive? Now, Calvin, depending on how long we've been like in our business together, what we have is liquidity, he may or may not have the resources to pay me off. He may or may not want to take an SBA loan and leverage himself to buy me out. Because what I will tell you is I worked really hard on that grass, and that's my legacy for my children. I'm not just giving it to Calvin and his kid. I don't care if his 1-year-old is cute or not. I got an 8-year-old that likes to eat, okay? So that insurance agent can help you with your key man life insurance. They can help you for the things that you cannot expect. But again, all of us have different goals, And if you all don't work together, you're not going to, you may struggle or have extra hurdles to jump, versus making sure everyone's in the room together to say, what is my goal this year? How do I want to accomplish it? And if everyone is on the same page, you will get to your goal a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if I could just add one thing to the great information Gail provided is, you really think about, you're not the only one that has ever gone through a difficulty with a business or personal. So in addition to the great team that Gail's talking about, being able to utilize your bankers, your attorneys, your accountant, and such, is also realized in the community. I'm gonna keep going back to you. Almost gonna sound like a broken record almost, but you've got your community development financial institutions, who is also one of their missions is to help take you through every step of your business, from the good to the not so good to getting it back to great.
Yes.
So make sure that you add those partners in your kind of Rolodex of who can help.
Awesome.
And on top of the community piece, Matthew, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
When Gail mentioned the bail, only one in that group won't charge you per hour. That's the banker.
That's us.
And if you don't have a good relationship with an attorney, if you don't have a good relationship with an insurance broker, if you don't have a good relationship with who's my B? Oh, to be the A. The accountants. We do. So start with your banker.
Yes.
If you need a referral,
So before you do
we're happy to do that.
Y'all, I'm looking in this audience and I see our bankers from Eastern North Carolina. I see them from Charlotte. I see them from DC. I see them here in Atlanta. So can I get my bankers to raise their hand really quick? Because no matter where you are in the footprint, we have Truist teammates in this room that can help you.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go to the next question right over here, this lady.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Tellian J. Thomas. Gail, I want to pick up on a point that you made in your comment. My question was about structuring of businesses. Most of the time, people automatically default to an LLC, but clearly there are different structure options. So can you speak to the implications for lending and how businesses can be best positioned with the right structure? And through the process, do you reevaluate the structure, make any recommendations in that regard?
There isn't a whole lot structured lending-wise based on the type of corporation you are, LLC, partnership. We're going to look at the cash flow of the business every single time. How does money come in? How does money come out? I think the differences from the lending side, though, are how are the financials presented, and globally, do we need to look at that together? If you're a C corporation, I'm not an accountant, this is not tax advice, this is just what it is, okay? But if you're a C corporation, a lot of folks want to do that because of double taxation, because nowhere in there does it feed into your personal tax return. If you're an S corporation, an LLC, even a sole proprietorship, all of that income flows into your personal tax return, which the only thing is when we underwrite and we look at it, we need to make sure that we also understand, does the business support itself? Okay, business supports itself, check, okay? But even when the business supports itself, if you think about an LLC or an S corp, you can take distributions, okay? Everybody know about the distributions? It's another way to pay yourself outside of a wage. While the company looks like it makes money, if you distribute all the money out of the company into your personal name, we're gonna look, can the company still pay once that money is gone? Because it's showing as a profit on the actual tax return. To me, that would be just one of the biggest nuances of how you're looking at doing it. Number one, can the business support itself? Number two, can the person support their selves, which are personal obligations, or are you reliant on the distribution or the wages of the company completely? Not necessarily the wages, but really the distribution of it.
And even if you distribute to yourself personally, it's not necessarily the end of the world. We just need to be able to follow it.
Yes.
So if you have a home, 2 cars, you're paying tuition for a child in college, we just need to understand, okay, distributions normally should be taken to pay your tax obligation, which is why you get taxed personally. But if you're distributing capital or distributing profits beyond that, we just want to know what you're doing it for. Now, if you're going out and buying a bunch of rental properties, we're probably going to frown on that. But if you're leveraging that profit to support your personal lifestyle, and we can see it on your personal financial statement, then we usually can kind of move beyond that.
All right. Thank you, Calvin and Gail. We have our next question here, and your name is?
Hi, my name is Reagan Flowers. So, scenario I'll offer, and hopefully, I don't know if it's advice or recommendation. So, you've secured your loan, you've collateralized everything to get that loan, and but then there's another deal on the table, and you need to go back and get some more money, but you've got everything collateralized on another deal. What would you advise? Is it you just don't go forward, or are there other options, or and the business is sustaining itself, and that's where you have your collateral situated. So I don't know, how do you advise when you're ready to also make that next move to the next business opportunity that's requiring collateral?
I am actually going to defer because that sounds like that might get a little creative. I'm thinking probably Calvin from the SBA and then Lauren too as well.
Yes, so Gail left you with something to take away, and I'll leave everybody in here with something from an SBA standpoint. We do not decline SBA loans because of lack of collateral. Mm-hmm. The whole purpose of the government guaranteed portion of the loan is if we find ourselves in a default situation where we're going to take a hard loss as a bank, the SBA says we're going to cover 75% of that. And if the loan's under 150, the SBA says we're going to cover 85% of that loss. So from a collateral perspective, we're anticipating there's always going to be a loss in the downside scenario, so we can take on more risk. So in your specific case, yeah, we need to just have an SBA conversation and see exactly, how you're going to leverage that capital moving forward. And if we don't have collateral, then we don't have collateral, but we have cash flow. I think I heard you say that. And that's what we look at first, every time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would add to what Calvin said. I mean, look at SBA, and if there's others, depending on the size of the loan that you'd be looking for, is if it's banks have certain limits they can do on SBA or they like to look at. We've also got partners that can go lower into the micro space or into smaller SBAs with the same guarantees he was just talking about. So get with your bankers, get with someone like myself, and we can connect you up with those organizations to help get additional resources.
Thank you. We have the next question, Christine.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And our next question is from?
Audra Johnson. Good afternoon, everyone. My question is, can I get a list of CDFIs that you guys help fund? I have a triplex, and I want to make some renovations so that I can use it for short-term rentals. And I have to do that because I did a cost segregation study. So I need to do that fully for one full year to get the full benefit from that.
So I'm going to say Lewis or Lauren.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we started, that list of CDFIs and so putting that together. So
yeah, there's a couple different ways to do it. If you want a broad list of the CDFIs that are certified, you can go to the cdfifund.org, and you can see a list of all CDFIs, all states, and even what they focus in on, whether it's small business, affordable housing. But if you want very nuanced and focused to the area you're in, reach out to myself, Lewis, he'll get you to me. I can actually talk you through by state which CDFIs we work with. And that way we can help also introduce you and make those warm referrals for those CDFIs.
Yeah, and we have a community development manager that covers each state in Truist footprint. And they work with these CDFIs and SBDCs as well. So we have a close relationship, great network. So talk to your banker first. Yep. And the banker will say, look, talk to Lewis's team. They'll hook you up. They'll take care of you, get you the right resources, the right organization to take you from point A to point B or wherever you need to go. So,
thank y'all. All right, we have our next question from.
How you doing? I'm Elsie Atkins with Stay Safe Eyewear. So, question is, I'm self-funded. I'm liquid. But I'm tired of spending my own money. I landed my I landed my first client, which is a good one, and I want to like expand my banking relationship. And so I went to Truist because I heard a lot of good things about the community development piece when they came to Truist. I've researched the SBA, but I'm one of those people that don't like to take loans because I've been self-funded for so long. But what would be the next step for somebody who's already, like I said, I've landed the business. I just want to be able to grow the business now without using my personal funds any longer.
Can I ask you one question? Because I want to answer your question. What's gotten you to that point where you say, I don't want to use my personal funds anymore?
I got more receipts than revenue, and that's a lot of times people don't talk about that in business. I got a lot of receipts, so my tax return would look like the business didn't make money because I spent so much money building out the infrastructure on my own. Yeah. And the piece about building out the infrastructure is the most daunting and the most expensive piece, and I just didn't want to take a loan out when I did that.
No, and the only reason why I asked you that question is because that's where we get when it's time to borrow money. What's the cost of my capital? Mm-hmm. What's the cost of bank capital? So people always want to know, well, what's your interest rate? It doesn't matter if the interest rate is 3%, 5%, 10%, 8%. That doesn't matter when you're comparing it against the cost of your personal capital.
Absolutely.
Because your personal capital can be leveraged for so much more. So you're at that point, and I'm glad you're at that point. Okay, I want to borrow some money. So how do you get started? It's just a conversation. And we'll help you in terms of what do we need to look at from a financial package standpoint, but also understanding how you want to leverage this capital. So I heard you say you've built out infrastructure with your cash. Well, is there a way to recoup some of that cash? We could look at that with an SBA loan. So if you've put out X number, thousands of dollars, maybe you can get some of that back and redeploy that capital to do something else. Maybe you can hire somebody. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So when we get to SBA lending, it's not just a matter of applying for a loan and getting approved. It's bringing us under the tent and helping and making sure we're right there with you so we can advocate for your business and understand where you're trying to go. Because that's what SBA Capital is all about. It's about the art of the possible. Mm-hmm. What am I trying to do? And how can we help you make that become a reality?
Okay, but don't leave without let me give you information.
I will not. I'll be over here.
It's on the screen.
On the stage.
He's stealing my thunder. That's coming up. I got you. Okay, we got you, sir. All right, we have time.
Can I also just dispel something real
Yes,
quick?
ma'am.
Because I love that you're self-funded, okay, but I also think sometimes that it is the misconception that debt is bad. Not all debt is bad.
Yeah.
Good debt means I have clarity in what is the purpose of my debt and what is going to derive from that. Now, if I get a line of credit to grow my business and I spend it on gas and dinners driving to clients but didn't see the return, bad debt. Bad debt. If I am growing my business and say I own an eyeglass company, but I'm going to take debt because now I want to add children's glasses to it that will expand my business, good debt. So debt is not always something that you should frown upon as a small business owner if you have it. It is a powerful tool that can help you grow and scale your business. And if I'm being honest, I have worked with some of the largest companies and looked at their financial statements, and there is debt on there. Truist has a liabilities section, which means we owe people money. There is debt on our balance sheet. So don't think of it as I have to struggle to grow my business. Ask for help. How do I grow in a way that's going to create long-term success and long-term wealth for me and my family?
Thank you, Gail. All right, y'all. This is the last question. I'd heard it all, but I got something for y'all after this. But I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Taylor, and I'm owner of Bridging the Process Counseling and Consulting Services. That being said, I have a question. To get more of my deaf clients, I need the opportunity that will cover the cost to finish my American Sign Language certificate. And I wanted to know is there an opportunity for that with you all, like to help fund that? And is that a business write-off since it's for business purposes?
All right.
I can't speak to the I don't think any of us can speak to the write-off because we're not CPAs. So part of your bail, I would get with your CPA to see if that is something you could write off.
I got you. So in terms of funding, so what I will say is tying back to the bail piece that Gail mentioned earlier, that's part of that connection in that team.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of getting the funding to be able to do that, any suggestions on where she could go to get that funding? I know we heard some from Lauren talking about even micro loans, CDFIs. Anything you would want to add, Lauren, or even Gail, about from a lending perspective?
Yeah, I would say first talk to your Truist lender, right? Have that conversation, because I think there's maybe
And we have plenty of bankers who can get more details about like how much does it cost, like what would that loan be, what is going to come from it, that we can talk to you after, because there's more specifics than can we do it or not. We need a little bit more detail to think about what product.
Yeah, I think there's maybe 100 people in here, so there's 100 different situations. So you got to have that individual conversation to get the details fleshed out, and then we can triage and find out what avenue you need to go down to best address your particular situation.